Welcome, listeners. This is a story called Boyi, written by Gloria Mwaniga. A tale of love, loss, and survival, set against the backdrop of a land torn apart by war. The narrator of this story is a young girl, Boyi's sister, who takes us through her family's pain, resilience, and the haunting echoes of a brother lost to the conflict. Prepare to step into a world where memories linger, the past refuses to fade, and the wind carries whispers of those who are gone. Let's begin.
Madness filled Mama's eyes the day Baba handed my brother Boyi over to Matwa K, saying,
"Hold on to the boy until I find your 40,000 land protection tax, and then I will have him back."
After Baba locked the door behind Boyi and the men who had disappeared into the night, Mama jumped up as if something had stung her.
You're crazy, Baba Boy. Completely mad. How could you let them take him? Did you not hear the stories? Have you gone deaf? The militia don't return sons. They swallow them whole. Do you think a child is like a borrowed mat, returned when the dust has settled? Or a dress you can lend and take back?
And what did you expect me to do, woman? Tell me, did you want me to refuse? To fight them? Do you not understand what that would mean? Refusing to pay could cost us our lives. Or do you think the militia show mercy? Have you not heard the stories? The militia collect heads like trophies, hanging them on trees. Or worse, maybe they even eat them, like Idi Amin did. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about what they do to families who resist? The slow cutting off of ears, the force-feeding of worm-filled dirt. Is that what you want for us?
By the time Baba finished speaking, Mama's skin was covered in hives, and her eyes looked empty, as if she had lost herself. I stood in the kitchen doorway, my stomach twisting, as if my insides had been yanked out through my nose. We knew they would come to our house. We knew the day Baba's friend, Che Soba, a teacher at Shepqueker Primary School, brought the news that the militia had a long list of people who had helped the government divide the land and give some of it to outsiders. We knew they would come because Baba had lent the government surveyors a penga and makongi ropes that day. So, when we heard they had started attacking government supporters, Mama began blocking the sitting room door with sacks of maize and beans. I don't know if it was fear or denial that made Boyi and me laugh at the idea of the militia attacking us, their own people. All I know is that we were still laughing about it the night Matwa K knocked on our door and said,
"Mzee, give us the 10,000 land protection tax and 30,000 betrayal tax, or today we will show you smoke without fire."
Baba gave them everything he had, his savings hidden in a metal box under his bed, his precious Sony transistor radio, even his hunting gun. But it wasn't enough. Desperate to save us, he promised to sell our Bulem Tambabaki the next day and hand over the money. Matwa K simply shook his head.
"You did not wait until tomorrow to lend the surveyor your panga and makonge. I will not wait until tomorrow to get the money. Bring it now, or your whole family is finished today."
That was when Baba pushed Boyi forward and told Matwa K to hold on to him. That was the day Baba shook his head and muttered,
Our very boys, who ate roots to protect our ancestral land, have turned on us like the hungry chameleon that eats its intestines.
The morning after Boyi left, I found Mama sitting on the kitimoto in the kitchen. She didn't look up. When I greeted her, she didn't answer. And when I made tea and started to pour it into a melamine cup, she suddenly shrieked.
Stupid girl. You want to finish tea and your brother will come from the caves hungry? Leave him some.
Mama kept screaming over meals in the weeks that followed. At first, I tried to explain that Boyi wasn't coming yet, and when he did, I would cook him another meal. But she only repeated,
Stupid girl. You want to finish tea and your brother will come from the caves hungry. Leave him some.
Baba would snap.
Shut up, Cheshit. You will kill Boyi with your torn mouth. He is not dead. You hear me, huh?
But as Baba spoke, Mama would slowly turn her gaze to the whitewashed wall and whisper that she had a vision of a dazzling white dove. She said the God of Israel was showing her that Boyi had escaped the militia and was on his way home after her. Monologues. Silence would sit in the room like a fourth person. Many neighbors visited us after Boyi was taken. Some came to shake their heads and say,
I stand with you.
How can we help?
Some shared stories of people who had disappeared and then miraculously returned. If Mama was having a good day, we would brew tea together, and she would sit with the visitors, telling stories about Boyi, how he saved her marriage by proving her womb wasn't cursed, how his smooth ebony skin shone like the bark of a guava tree, how his English was so perfect for a 15-year-old. I used to leave the kitchen door slightly open to hear the clink of teacups and their voices. But as time passed, fewer visitors came. Eventually, whole days would pass without anyone stopping by to drink tea or say any ugat. One night, under a rising full moon, Saulo brought us news. I saw his bald head over the bougainvillea fence and rushed to open the door.
The government has decided to step in by launching Operation Okoa Maisha. A troop of 200 armed forces men, already deployed, are arriving in big green lorries. They are coming to flush out the militia. This land war has gone on too long, and it is us, yes, us, who have forced the mighty arm of the government to act.
He spat out the words, mighty arm, like over-chewed sugarcane, and swung his thick arm in the air. Early the next morning, Baba and his cousin Kimutai dug a shallow grave behind the house and buried a banana stem wrapped in a green cotton sheet.
Death, take this body, take it, and do not bother my home with your visits again.
I stood near the pit, wondering why Baba, a Christian, would believe in such things. The smell of damp earth made my eyes sting. I didn't look at Mama, who sat on the wet ground beside me, tightly hugging her lesso, which read, Amani hypatikaniki, ila kwancha ya upenga. If you want peace, prepare for war. She refused to throw fresh soil on the grave. Instead, she watched Baba as he shoveled the earth over it. When he placed a wooden cross on the mound, Mama, her voice suddenly sharp, declared that she would not take part in sending Boyi's spirit away. Then, the long rains came, falling with both hands. The rain carved deep channels in the earth, washing away twigs, leaves, and the rich topsoil from the shamba. Streams of muddy water joined into a fast-moving current that rushed down to the main road, pooling on both sides. The mountain wind howled, snapping the roots of young maize plants, tearing them from the ground, leaving them sprawled like dead. Green snakes. Windows rattled. Doors slammed against houses. Leaves fluttered through the air like lost kites. The wind was so strong that it tore the tin roof off our mud and wattle kitchen. It happened the same day I first smelled a strange, sickly sweet scent coming from the Elgun forest. A heavy, bloody odor, rising like a giant bird, spreading its phantom wings over the houses and shambas. That was also the day the army lorries arrived. All of us children ran through the light afternoon drizzle, standing by the roadside, shoulder to shoulder, watching the convoy. We secretly wished the lorries would get stuck in the mud, just so we could get a closer look at the soldiers' famous cobra skin belts. The ones we had heard could magically shrink big bellies. The men joined us, lining the road like little dashes, waving wildly at the soldiers in their green helmets. Even the women left their chores, climbing up to the roadside to share stories. They whispered about the soldiers' expensive colognes, which smelled like pork to scare away spirits. Someone started a rumor that their hippo leather boots made their feet as smooth as a newborn baby's skin. In the days that followed, Mama stopped eating. She would leave her ugali untouched until it hardened into a crusty brown layer, and I would have to throw it into the chicken coop. I started sitting on the kitchen steps, keeping her in my sight, as she mumbled to herself,
Have I not suffered enough? Have I not? God, tie a rope around my stomach.
Sometimes she would look up, notice me watching, and ask,
Lakwetapai, do you remember? Do you remember Boy's perfect teeth, eh?
After weeks of watching Mama, I grew tired and began joining the other children at the chief's camp in Sheptap Berber, where the army had set up their green tents. We spent hours peeking through the cypress fence at the armory, eavesdropping on the soldiers' conversations and turning their words into wild stories.
Do you know that very black officer they call Sergeant? Imagine, he's the one who defeated Idi Amin in Uganda. I heard him say Mawake has even more magic than Amin. Wallahi, that man is a real genie.
I imagined Matwake's favorite red Chicago Bulls cap, absorbing bullets so they couldn't hit his swollen, red-rimmed eyes. The stories spread like boiling soup from mouth to mouth, making me think of the tales Boyi used to tell me about the militia, how they drank magic potions. The militia believed they had special powers. Boyi used to tell me stories about how they drank magic potions from Orkoyot, making their bodies as strong as stone, like the Luo warrior Luanda Magere, so that enemy spears would slide off them. They covered themselves in bloody cow dung to become invisible, ensuring their raids were always successful. When they marched across dry land, red dust rose into the sky like a swarm of locusts, because the earth god, Yeyin, was with them. I clung to these stories, wanting them to be true, wanting Boyi to be stronger than the soldiers. I remember that December, like it was yesterday. Farmers didn't clear their fields for the second maize planting, because the militia stole young crops and even took goats from their pens. Instead of working, the women stayed home, while the men gathered under the shade of matagua trees, whispering about what was happening.
They are now going house to house, forcing boys as young as 10 to join them. Who knows what their mission is anymore? They forgot they were our protectors. They forgot they were our geeks. After all, isn't our blood red like theirs? I hear. The new recruits must kill a close relative first to make their hearts strong for battle.
I heard our neighbor Koros tell Baba one day,
Ndugu Koros. This thing should have ended a long time ago, but Puot, war is a maggot that nibbles at the hearts of men.
That night, I had a terrible dream. Boyi, with his eyes the color of Coca-Cola, came and cut me into tiny pieces to harden his heart for killing. I woke up feeling hollow, like a balloon floating without an anchor. The mass exodus to Bungoma and Uganda began the day my chest started aching with the first signs of womanhood. My friend Chemutai, before her family moved away to Chwela, teased me, saying my breasts grew too fast because I spent too much time lying under the musasa tree, reading books, instead of working like a normal girl. Fear hung over the villages of Kopsiro, Seramet, Chepyok, and Chelabay like a thick yellow fog. No one understood the militia's intentions anymore. People whispered that they were now kidnapping young girls to cook for them. One woman told of a mother who, after hiding her sons, was forced by Matwa K to send her daughter to the militia instead. And there were darker stories. People said that River Cheptap Bulber ran red with blood, filled with floating human heads, that the militia had begun raping their own relatives, and the victims gave birth to babies as transparent as plastic bags. When those stories reached our house, Mama refused to leave. She said she would never abandon Boyi, and if Baba wanted to run, he could go and leave her with her tears. This was shocking, because Mama had always stood by Baba's side. With no school anymore, I spent my days under the Nandi flame tree, eyes half closed, imagining Boyi's plastic bag, Baby playing tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor with the fallen petals. The news arrived with the dust devil that whirled through January, twisting and turning like an omen. It was the same wind that yanked my silk skirt from where I had tucked it between my legs, lifting it high, up, up, until it flared, around my waist, like an overturned umbrella. Perhaps it was Mama's mourning that courted misfortune, or maybe it was Baba's refusal to ever speak of Boyi that made our ancestors forget to protect him. It was raining that day. I stood at the kitchen window, watching silver droplets fall, like glittering rice being poured from the sky, when I saw Chasina, an old friend of Baba. He worked as a watchman in the grain depot, far away in Chwele Market. I was surprised to see him visit. He settled into the animal print sofa and spoke gravely.
I got word from a trader who heard it from a big government man. Boy is a marked man now. Matwaki's right-hand man. Imagine, my God, Mama Boy, this war has stolen the wit from your son.
I hid behind the kitchen door, watching Mama from the corner of my eye.
No! I must not be told such rubbish about my son. Chesina, if you want Omo to wash your dirty mouth, just say so. Matwake, what did I ever do to you? Tell me, Matwake. Tell me now so that I can repent.
Her voice cracked. I wanted to say something, but my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth like wet cotton. Baba tried to calm her.
Boyi was a good son. Did you not see how earnestly he recited the responsorial psalm? Did you not see the tears in his eyes?
But Mama only wept. Chasina sighed and walked out into the rain. That day, for the first time, I saw Baba's tears, 2 silver streams rolling down his polished porcelain cheeks. That night, I slept in Boyi's bed for the first time. His blue bedsheets, printed with tiny yellow chicks breaking out of their eggshells, enfolded me in their shadowy coolness. They smelled of him, of his boyish laughter, bright as silver-wrapped toffees, of butterscotch sweets that had appeared, as if by magic from his sticky pockets. I remembered how he used to hoard the things Baba had banned. Jawbreakers, sticks of Big G that we later stuck under the table, pressing my sore, stone-hard breasts into the sheets. I wished I could take on the pain Boy must have felt in the cold caves. I imagined his eager, shining eyes as I told him about the soldiers, especially Sergeant, whose stories I knew he would have loved. I imagined us playing Ninja Soldier again, as we had when we were younger, him in his checkered school shirt, me in a t-shirt, crouching and hiding as he shouted,
"Cover Ninja Soldier!"
I remembered the day Mama had caught us playing. She had scolded us harshly. "You are calling death by name," she had said. I knew it was a bad omen when the thunder cracked that night, splitting the sky open. A bolt of lightning struck the Nandi flame tree in front of our house, shattering its great branches. Even before Mama emerged from her room, jubilant, declaring that the evil meant for our home had been swallowed by the tree, I already knew. I sat beside her on the animal print sofa, listening to the tata-tata of broken branches raining down on the mabati roof, shaking the whole house. After that night, the Nandi flame tree never scattered its fiery blossoms on the earth again. Early the next morning, Simone burst into our compound, his breath ragged, and thrust a copy of the Nation newspaper into my hands. The headline screamed. Everything inside me froze. A dull, relentless pounding rose in my chest, as if something were hammering with both fists, demanding to be let out. I ran like a madwoman, banged on my parents' bedroom door until Baba shouted,
Do you think the plague of deafness descended on us in the night?
I did not stir when Baba finished reading the article and crumpled to the floor like an old discarded coat. I did not flinch when Mama's ribbon of laughter, sharp, high, and unnatural, pierced the early dawn. I did not weep when, a few hours later, the neighbors streamed into our house, heaving their chests and murmuring,
"It is a bad death that kills a man in the prime of his youth."
Mama did not roll on the ground when Simone described how Boyi had been captured, deep in the sacred caves. She did not weep when he said Boyi was hoisted into an aircraft, and then, after it had climbed up, like a kite, he was shoved out, by Sargent, without a parachute. Imagine! She did not slap Boyi's corpse, demanding why he had fed her the bread of sorrow, because there was no corpse to slap. Instead, she turned to Baba and looked at him with wide, bloodshot eyes, innocent, in their lunacy. Then, in a voice stripped of life, she told him,
The government sergeant threw my Boyi down without a parachute. Imagine.
Her voice was not bitter, not even sad. It was flat. It cracked slightly, like firewood splitting in the heat. Mama did not protest when Baba took his Sony transistor radio and the Nation newspaper and flung them into the almost full pit latrine outside. She did not say,
If you want to go, go. But leave me alone to mourn with my tears.
When I took her hand and led her to Boyi's room, she followed without a word. She sat on the blue bedsheets, still printed with yellow chicks breaking out of their eggshells, and whispered Boyi's name softly, as though the syllables were made of tin and would cut the roof of her mouth if spoken too loudly. I let the tears spill down my face. I let them soak my blue silk blouse, my purple boob top. I did not tell Mama what I knew. I did not tell her that I had felt life leave Boyi's body, that I had known it the moment the Nandi flame tree splintered and shattered, that in that instant, the wind had lost its magic and turned into nothing more than an ordinary country wind.